I'm showing 6:02 now, Ken, and we have, I believe,
As far as
everyone.
I see, Kenny Viscar has just joined us, so I think we have everyone.
Yeah,
So let's call the meeting to order and get underway. Do we need a roll call of members?
Larry Hafner,
Here.
Ken Visker, and he looks like he's muted. I'll come back to Ken. Ken Anderson,
Here.
Franklin Hahn,
Here.
Wayne Runigan,
Here.
Ken Visker.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. Welcome, Ken.
Okay. I'll ask Aaron to read the public notice and staff report.
Sure, and I'll also note that our applicants are in the courthouse there. They're on the smart screen screen on your Zooms. Doug and Dan, you able to hear everything okay? Please take notice that an application was received from Doug and Julia Hines for a variance of setback requirements. They're seeking setbacks reductions in Sheldon Township to reduce property line setbacks for existing buildings in preparation for a parcel division. A hearing on this application will be held at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 25th. Due to the pandemic, the hearing will be held in a hybrid format. Skip over that. Anyone wishing to attend may do so at the courthouse or attend remotely using the Zoom platform. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given an opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of the application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department or emailed by Tuesday, March 16th. Comments in regard to the petition received by this date will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting. And this was advertised on March 10th.
Okay, do you have a staff report? Do you want to review that for us at this time?
Sure, I'll give you a kind of a top level. What's happening here is the Heinzes are seeking these variances in preparation for a parcel split that is part of their transition plan, generational transition plan for their farming operation. So their son will take over some smaller acreage with the original farmhouse on it. And like many of these farmsteads, the layout of the outbuildings doesn't provide enough room to accommodate the ag district setbacks once those parcels go under different ownership. In this case, there are buildings that still have additional years of useful life that they wish to keep and remain on the property and continue to be used. So they're seeking variances to allow a garage to remain on the on what would be the parcel with the homestead, and a pole shed to remain on what would be the remainder, kind of the outbuildings of that farm. Additionally, they're thinking ahead for the possibility of a attached garage to the existing house, and that would also require, they're also seeking a variance to accommodate that. Your staff report has several maps and figures that kind of provide the layout of the existing buildings. And touch on the uses in the surrounding area and how they're either similar or dissimilar to this. I guess without going into all the details of your reports, I'm sure you've all had a chance to go through those. I would be happy to take any questions anyone has on anything that I included in those reports.
Okay. I guess the next part of our business would be to ask the Heinzes if they have anything they would like to add to for the board to consider. Doug or Julie?
I think Aaron summed it up pretty good. This is mainly to get our son Dane into the operation, and this is the first step. As far as the garage, who knows when that would come, but we thought now's the time to do it all in one. Limiting things would be to the north of the house is a straight off slope To the west of the house is our septic in the yard, and to the south of the house is a well. So there's only one direction to ever build a garage, and that would be to the east. So that's why that was asked for.
Okay. Any of the board members have a question for Heinz's?
This is Franklin. I went over and viewed the proposed site. I had a little bit of not a big concern, but I'm always thinking about the next owner, if they would shut down the dairy operation or beef, whatever the case may be. But after visiting with them, they got all their bases covered. So I'm convinced that myself, not convincing the board, but I'm convinced myself that there's not a problem, myself personally.
Okay. Did anyone else go actually visit the site? I know I didn't.
I went and visited the site. Dane or Doug, they wasn't there. So I just looked at it from the car, and I didn't see a problem either. And this is Dane trying to get into the farm, and I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anyone from the staff visit the site to actually visit?
We did not make a trip down there for this, so.
Okay.
I guess also I'd like to add that it is refreshing that the board is considering this variance before the split is taking place rather than after, which
Yes.
you're much more used to
We
doing.
appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, I guess if anyone else have a question from the board? Then it's open up for public comment. Mike, you were here, I think, asking about something.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problem with the variance. I would urge you to pass it.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think it's a good idea to
Okay.
get into the farm there.
Are there any other members of the public that are online that would want to be in? I don't know of any offhand, but
We've got one caller on,
okay.
phone number ending in 4651. Can I assign a name to you? Well, I guess I don't see them as being muted, but if they chime in at some point, maybe they could
Okay.
comment.
I guess then the next part of our business is any other comments from the board members? Questions or comments that we want to make?
I've got one question. I think I've answered it before I got it out. I was questioning that variance for building the garage, and he was saying he wasn't sure when that would be, but I was thinking of the permit expiring in a year, but that's not I'm assuming that's not the case with this variance. You know, if he'd gotten a building permit and he hadn't used it in a year, you got to renew it or something. But I'm guessing that that's not an issue with the variance.
Right, that would not expire, if the board had a rationale for limiting it in time, you could, but if
No,
you simply allow it and don't limit it in time, it would allow them to submit a zoning application for it with the reduced setback at any point in time after it's approved.
yeah, I was just, cross the T's and dot the I's, and I had in my mind that was going to expire, had in my mind like a building permit expires in a year. This isn't the same, and I don't think we should put any time limit on it.
It's a good question, Larry.
Anyone else have a comment or question? And I think our next part is just going into the findings that we have. Normal part.
I will read each finding. I will provide you with staff analysis on each finding, and then I'll ask you for a yes or no vote. and a reason for your vote. If you have, please provide any reason you have. If you wish to sign on to the staff analysis, you can simply say that. If you wish to sign on to one of your colleagues' rationale, you can simply say that. Number one, the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. Staff analysis is the comprehensive plan states as a goal the preservation of commercial agriculture as a viable permanent land use. The applicant's pursuit of the requested variances serve the purpose of easing the transition of an active farm and contribute to the attainment of this goal. For 1 second. Okay, Ken Anderson,
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Larry Hafner,
I agree with staff analysis.
Franklin Hahn,
Yes, I agree.
Wayne Runnigan,
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
and Ken Visker.
I agree.
Number two, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls. The proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The analysis here is that the relative proximity of the buildings, and in particular the dwelling, constitute a practical difficulty. Additionally, the cost of entry into commercial agriculture can be considered and may underscore the reasonableness or necessity of a phased approach. 2007 USD report concluded that the average asset base of farms with annual sales of $50,000 or more was over $1.9 million. Given the high cost of entry, the board may find a phased transition of a farming operation to be reasonable, and the removal of buildings to satisfy official controls when alternatives exist to be unreasonable. Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
Franklin?
Yes, I agree.
Wayne?
Yes, I agree.
Ken?
I agree.
Ken Anderson.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Number three, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The variance is requested due to the proximity of existing buildings that were constructed in 1920, 1983, and 1993, and an envisioned placement of new buildings within the limitations presented by the existing infrastructure. The board should consider whether the original placements of these buildings was done to facilitate a future variance, which would require the variance to be denied. The board should also consider whether the desire to separate the dwelling from the agricultural buildings for the purpose of a phased farm transfer is a special circumstance which would support the granting of a variance. So there's two things there, I guess. First, I'll ask, do folks believe that when the buildings were placed, they were envisioning a future variance request and trying to set the table for that? And if the answer to that is no, then the question two would be, is the desire to split the house from the ag buildings to transfer the farm for the purpose of transferring the farm, would you consider that a special circumstance? If the answer to that is yes, then your overall vote on this finding could be yes. I'm hoping I'm expressing that clearly. Franklin, does that make sense to you? And what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree, but back when those buildings were built, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if there was a requirement for variances back then. So they wouldn't have any idea, in my opinion, of needing a variance in the future, or was there a variance back then?
Not in 1920, there was not. That was the house build date. There would have been in 1983 and 1993, but not when the house was placed. There would not have been any zoning rules at all.
Okay. Well, I agree if that's what you're asking me.
Sure. Wayne?
I agree with staff analysis.
Ken Visker?
Yes, I agree.
Ken Anderson?
I agree. I mean, you're splitting up an existing farmstead rather than a separate parcels where the house is easily separated from the other buildings.
Larry Hafner?
I agree.
Okay. I think that's the trickiest one we have to go through in this series, but no promises. Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance and the minimum variance, which would alleviate the practical difficulty sought. The dwelling cannot be separated from the outbuildings in a manner that provides a 50-foot setback for each building on both parcels. Any division that achieves the objectives of the applicants would require a variance. The location of the existing and logical future septic components limits the area available for a garage addition on the house. Wayne.
Okay, so I have a question about the attached garage. That's fine as long as it's an attached garage and not something else. So I would agree to that if it's an attached garage.
Sure. So when you make a decision tonight, when the board does, they'll be deciding it on the application as presented by the Heinz. In this application, I think they're clearly stating that it would be for a garage. You certainly would have the ability to put some parameters around there if you wanted to, however.
Okay, I agree.
Ken Visker,
I agree.
Ken Anderson,
I agree with staff analysis.
Larry,
I agree.
and Franklin.
Yes, I agree.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. The location is surrounded by the applicant's property. Those most likely to be affected by the proposed parcel division are the applicants and their son, as they have a significant investment in the existing dairy. Nearby divisions resulting in parcels of similar acreage appear to have occurred nearby. There's a split of 23 acres and a split of 20 acres and a split of 2 acres, all within a half mile from the subject property. Ken Visker,
I agree.
Ken Anderson,
I agree.
Larry,
I agree.
Franklin,
Yes, I agree.
and Wayne.
Yes, I agree.
Finally, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. The request is for 3 area variances and does not affect requirements related to flood protection nor run afoul of known state law. Ken Anderson,
I agree.
Larry,
I agree.
Franklin,
Yes, I agree.
Wayne,
I agree.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
I should have clarified this before we started the findings, but I'll ask you to weigh in now. These findings that were prepared for you in your staff reports were for the consideration of all 3 requests as one bundle, meaning that they're either all granted or they all fail. Is it everyone's understanding that the findings that we just created would apply to all 3 variance requests?
I agree with that.
I agree with that. Do we need to take a poll?
I guess maybe if we could ask for unanimous, I suppose it's a remote meeting. Yeah, we probably should take a poll. So is that your understanding, Ken Anderson?
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Wayne,
Yes,
and Ken Visker.
Yes.
Okay, that completes the findings required of the
So
board when
then we need a
considering.
motion to accept the findings. Is that the way it process?
Yep.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the findings.
This is Larry. I'll make a motion to accept the findings.
Okay, we have a motion by Larry, and do we need a second?
I'll second it. Wayne
Okay,
Runnigan.
Wayne seconded.
A roll call. Ken Anderson,
Aye, yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
Staff's recommending one condition on this variance, and it has to do with the proposed split. And it reads, the variance approval is contingent on the completion and submission to the county of a certified survey substantially similar to the proposed parcel as described in the application, with deviations to the connection to the state highway being acceptable.
I missed the last word. What was that?
With they could change the way they connect to the highway. I understand they were considering possibly a easement connection, or they were considering owned access all the way out to the highway. So there would be they could adjust it in terms of how that what I'm calling parcel B in your packets is connected to State 76.
Okay, what you're basically saying is they have to have technically an easement for that parcel. Is one simple way of doing it.
Well, no,
And it,
that's not really what I'm saying. I guess I'm saying is that the proposed parcel that they submitted in their application ultimately needs to be surveyed. And when it is surveyed, it should be pretty similar to what they submitted in their application. Now, it wouldn't be exact because that's not survey grade work that we did, but it should be pretty similar to it.
I have no objection.
so,
We're probably looking at more of an easement, but, you know, I don't know if that changes anything. And the set acres, is that a big deal, Aaron?
I'm using the word substantially similar. So I think as long as it resembles in large part what you've shown in your application, it would be fine. It just shouldn't be, a half acre after we're talking, this is about 20 acres.
right. Okay, now I follow what you're getting at. Yes. Do we have a motion to approve variance, to grant the variances? I think that's where we're at right now. And you would like to have that stipulation in that motion.
Well, I'm just presenting it for your consideration. I do also have some proposed motion language if somebody is brave enough to tackle that or wishes to
I'll
tackle
make a
that.
motion to grant shall I read it? To grant the following variance to satisfy the 50-foot property line setback in an agricultural protected district. Variance will apply to the parent parcel shown on parcel A and the subdivision shown as parcel B in the attached exhibit 1. The variance orders are to be drafted and reported to the respective parcels. 1, variance of 36 feet from the east proposed property line for an existing garage on parcel B. Variance of 36 feet from the east proposed property line for the proposed garage on parcel B, and variance 46 feet from the west property line for an existing coal shed on parcel A. And the motion should include various contingent, variance approved in contingency that we prior discussed. Is that it? Is that it, Aaron?
That's it, yes. You're a brave man, Larry.
Thank you.
Wayne, this Franklin. Wayne, what was your concern about the attached garage?
Well, my concern was, is it a garage? Gonna be a garage?
Oh, rather than a pole shed or what have you? Or would-
Calf shed. Part of a barn. I don't know.
I wouldn't think they'd have that attached to their house.
I wouldn't either, but I just want to make sure it's a garage.
If you're more comfortable, we can put it in there.
Would you also put in there then for storage of automobiles? You could have a garage and store tractors or machinery. I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm just asking the question. Normally, we consider a garage for vehicles. I mean, that's a normal.
Yep.
And attached to a house, it's usually not going to be for any other, unless it's a little bit of a shop or something like that. And a lot of people will have a wood shop in a garage.
We don't care about that.
And we shouldn't be involved in what they actually use that building for, as long as it fits the code for what it's attached to.
And I don't know if we have the authority to make them put it onto the house. I don't know. I don't think we do, but I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron.
I guess I would tell you that what you're considering now is the application as presented, and as presented, it's my understanding that it is a garage that is attached to the house. So that's what
Okay.
they're asking for permission for.
Okay, well, it's good to clarify it because then we know exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
Aaron, could you read that motion over again? And then we have to get a second before we do any more discussion.
Okay. To grant the following variances to satisfy the 50-foot property line setback in an agricultural protection district. The variances will apply to parent parcel, shown as parcel A, and the subdivision, shown as parcel B, in the attached Exhibit 1. 2 variance orders are to be drafted and recorded to the respective parcels. Number 1, a variance of 36 feet from the east proposed property line for an existing garage on parcel B. Number 2, a variance of 36 feet from the east proposed property line for a proposed garage on parcel B. And number 3, a variance of 46 feet from the west proposed property line for an existing pole shed on parcel A. And that motion included the one condition that the variance approval is contingent on the completion and submission to the county of a certified survey substantially similar to the proposed parcel as described in the application, with deviations to the connection to the state highway being acceptable.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Franklin. Any further discussion?
I have one question for Aaron. When they get a permit, if and when they get a permit for this garage, on the permit then does it say, like we're talking about, that it has to be attached to the house in your permit, or is that just a given?
In our permit review process, we look for any conditional use, interim use, or variances recorded to the property and make note of them. So when we went through the process of determining whether the setbacks were met, we would note the number of this variance order and that the setback was reduced accordingly.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, then I think let's go to a vote on the motion.
Ken Anderson,
I vote aye.
Larry,
Yes.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
and Ken Visker.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you to the Heinz.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That concludes with this one, does it? Am I right, Aaron?
That's correct. Yes.
And now we're ready for the next one
Yeah.
coming up about the same time. So this would be with Ed Hummel, I believe.
Ed, is that
Yeah,
you?
4651. This is Ed,
Great.
and my wife Jan is here also.
Okay, let's just see. We advertise this for 6:30. I can read the notice whenever you're ready, Ken.
I'm ready anytime you are.
Please take notice that an application was received from Ed and Janice Hommel for a variance of setback requirements in Jefferson Township. The request is to reduce the setbacks to a county road and a variance to reduce the setbacks from a township road for a proposed building. A hearing on this application will be held at 6:30 on March 25th. Due to the pandemic, the hearing will be held in a hybrid format. The in-person option will take place in the commissioner's room. The virtual option utilizes a Zoom platform. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of the application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department or emailed and must be received by March 16th. Comments in regard to the petition received by this date will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the board prior to the meeting, and this was also advertised on March 10th. The overview of this, as you see in your packets, are a property that's transected by two roads, a township road and a county road. And then from there, there's an existing house, and then there's a relatively quick slope increase where things become steep. The applicants are looking to construct a shop near the house to be accessed in a similar manner as the existing house is accessed, and have some limitations based on slope and based on septics and based on wells, and then also based on the fact that the two roads are right there. I'd open up to any questions any board members have on the packets.
I have a question. Is the highway department okay with that? Brian?
So they were notified of it, and they did not submit comments for or against. But for all variance applications, all CUP applications, we do provide notice to Houston DOT.
No comments from the township either?
No.
Okay. I guess the other one would be to just, next phase would be to ask the Hummels if they have any comments they would like to present, additional information.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the site is where we moved on to when we got married back in 1978. We put a mobile home in there and lived there for 5 years in that. And then in 1983, my parents built a house there. We moved the mobile home off and went to the farm. And then we now are going to be moving a quarter mile way across the field, and we're going to move back there, and we'd like to build a shop there. And we're kind of limited in places to put the shop because of the topography. It's kind of at the edge of the top of a hill, and it slopes away immediately there. And the reason that I'd like to be across the road, it's a lot closer to the house for access, for just for walking back and forth. It's nice and quick to get back and forth, and don't have to cross the road. And also for electrical and water, I'd like to have a garden hose up there in the shop, just for fire prevention, or just for safety more than anything. And that's pretty much all we'll have in there. And the other thing is, there's a grove of trees on the west of the road there that offers some protection if we're behind it there on the east side of Bluebird. If we're in the field, then we're just up on top of the hill, basically. And it's also visible from the farm site if we get on top of the hill, and it makes the buildings less separate, and it's nice to have a little separation so that each building site is its own place and not kind of close to the other one or looking onto the other one. And let's see. And of course, it's in the field up there and kind of old-fashioned. It's always better if you can build somewhere that's not a field, in my opinion, I guess. And that's kind of what we would like to do. And I talked to Brian twice actually about this, and they are okay with the plan. And we wouldn't be going as close to the highway as we'd like to get to the township road. And the other thing of interest on the township road, that's only a 2-rod road. That's the only cartway that Jefferson Township has. So there's actually, the township only has a 33 foot way through our land there. And that's where we're trying to get. We want to get closer to the township road, like the house is. The house is about the same as what we'd like to put the shop. So I guess that's a pretty good overview. So from there, I just kind of give it back to you guys.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Any board members have questions for Ed?
Well, I could bring this up later, but the way I read in here on page 2, there is an existing building that's 33 feet from the town road center line, and it was permitted. Does that create a problem without a variance? Because we just had one in Blackhammer last meeting where a building was permitted, and that's in our minutes, and they had to get a variance to keep that existing building. Or am I reading something here that it isn't an existing building?
Franklin, that's a question to me.
Yes.
So the difference would be that the Blackhammer variance request was due to the placement of a new property line, whereas as far as we can tell, that property line and that road was located there when the permit was issued. Why it was issued without a variance, we don't know the answer to that, but it was a permitting action and it was issued. And Blackhammer, that building was predated zoning, and then the parcel was split and somebody put a property line next to an existing building. So therein lies the difference.
Okay, so kind of what we're saying is that the Hummels building grandfathered in. We shouldn't use that word, should we?
Yeah, I guess it's a permitting action for it, and we don't know the rationale that occurred in, I can't remember the year, but whatever the rationale was, the county zoning office issued them a permit. They just didn't say it's okay, it's a permitting action, and we would honor that permit. We continue to honor that permit.
Well, the reason I ask these questions is so that we keep consistent on what the board is doing. That's why I asked the question.
Oh, very good, Franklin. I like that. I'm glad you brought that up.
I've got
Anyone
a,
else?
yeah, I've got I guess a comment or a question. If he's, how do I even say it? If he can build up to the line of an adjacent building, can he? Seems to me there's something in the ordinance that if you're building and the adjacent building is already closer to the road,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
then he's permitted to do as well.
Yeah, you can do some averaging in certain scenarios. I don't know that is applicable to accessory buildings, and I don't know that the averaging in this case would work, and that this one house is very clear, very, very close, but other houses in the area are very far back.
And as long as we're here, we're doing the other one. We probably just,
Well, we have to have the variance for the highway, the county road, even if we didn't need one for the township road.
yeah, so we
Another-
might as well just doable.
So I think what we should be dealing with is questions for Mr. Hummel. If we have, any of the board members have questions for him at this time. And if not, then we go to our, ask for any comments from public. Anyone in the public has a comment. I don't see anyone that would appear, no one coming on. Franklin, do you have something?
No, I'm all right.
I'll
Okay.
note, in your staff reports, I was assuming a 66-foot township right-of-way. Ed is in a position to know what the right-of-way is on the township road in that township. So my information that I'm providing there about adjusting his request so as not to build on the right-of-way would no longer carry. And you see that on the bottom of page 1, where I'm discussing a typical 4-rod township road. If this is a 2-rod road, I would withdraw my recommendation to slightly reduce his request to keep it off the right-of-way.
The other thing,
Basically, we don't need a variance to the township road anymore.
No, you would still need the variance, but you could consider the full amount he's requesting. I had suggested that you reduce it a bit so his building wasn't actually placed on the right-of-way, because I was under the impression that it was a 4-rod right-of-way, but it's only a 2-rod he's indicating.
Okay.
So that township road, is that a dead-end road? It sounds like a small road.
This is Ed again, and it is a dead-end road, and it goes about 1.25 miles, I think would be about right. There's one more residence back the road, and then there's a cabin on the far end of it, goes to that.
Okay.
what are the chances the township will want to increase the width of that road? And how?
Almost non-existent, I would think, because it's served well this far, and I don't suspect that the traffic's going to increase any more than it is now.
Okay.
And they'd have to petition the landowners, and I'm one of those, so we're not that crazy about getting any more road in there either. So I think everybody's satisfied with the way it is now.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Hummel?
So then you're just asking for 6 feet on that township road?
I guess
No.
that
Because it's 27 feet off of the road, and if it's a 33-foot road, the right-of-way, you're asking for 6 feet,
Wayne, there's two
correct?
distances. So there's the distance of the right-of-way, and then there's the setback, and the setback is greater than the right-of-way.
Setback is from the center of the road.
The setback is from the center of the road, and it's the greater of the two, whichever is the farthest, if I remember reading right.
Correct.
So we still have the same amount of setback, but it's from the center of the road. But the road right-of-way does not take as much of that total area as we thought it was.
Okay.
To clarify it, why don't you say the footage from the center of the road would be so far, I would suggest, to the edge of the building. Wouldn't that be in everybody's mind? I know we can read it in the packet here, but Aaron, how many feet from the center of the township road would the edge of that building be?
So he's asking for a 36-foot variance, and that would mean the building would be 29 feet from the center line of the township road.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for Aaron or for Ed then? Then I guess anyone from the public want to comment? The non-members here? Hearing none, let's go to any other questions from board members.
This is not a question relating to the variance denying or granting the variance, but I think from a county road, isn't right away 65 feet from the center line, Aaron, on a county road?
What did I? They actually vary a lot more frequently than townships, but I believe I've got. If you look on page 2 of your packets, that's showing the specific county 14 right of way in that area, and the green line is what's showing that.
Okay.
So this, if you see the proposed shed location on there,
Yep.
it is right at the right of way lines, both of the township road and the county road. Our township road right of way lines are just a generic 4-rod right of way everywhere. So that line is not accurate, but our county road right of ways are specific to the roadway and are accurate.
Okay.
And I think from what I've seen on North County Road by my farm, they vary depending on how much of a cut they have to make or whatever. The right of way just varies depending on what they have to fill or cut. So there's a lot of variation of a true right of way. Okay, nothing from the public, so let's see any questions now from our board members that we want to discuss anything further on this.
So I haven't been out to the site, but there's a steep drop off. Is that why you want to crowd the road?
Yeah, that's what the deal is there. From the edge of the road gutter, it goes downhill immediately, and then it goes a little ways, and then it gets quite steep after that. So it's pretty steep, but we can place the building there with a little bit of manipulation of the ground and make it work. But going further than the driveway, if we did something like that, it'd get pretty steep down into it, and you'd be climbing out of there too. So it'd be a lot easier to build higher up.
You look
Wayne,
at
I think if you looked at figure 4 in our packet, you see anything with the red is that's a 24% slope. So it isn't very far from his proposal. It's on
Okay.
page 4. I mean, there isn't a lot of room up there from what I could see to build on.
And on page 5, there's some more, that
Okay.
figure also shows some slopes, and it shows specific line segment slopes, and you're getting into 24, 27, 22 when you get east of the house.
Okay, anything else that was coming up? Any more discussion, board members?
Did you talk to Jefferson Township at all about
Yes,
this?
Yeah, I'm actually on the board, so it's pretty easy to talk to all the board members.
Okay. Good.
Now, as I see it, let's go to the findings then.
I'll read each finding, I'll present some staff analysis, then I'll ask each of you for a yes or no vote and a reason for that vote. If you choose, you can sign on to the staff analysis. If you choose, you can sign on to any comments your colleagues have presented. And by all means, if you have ideas of your own, please share those as well. Number 1, the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the official controls. As part of the residential development policies included in the comprehensive plan, the county is to encourage the rehabilitation of existing older homes. The addition of an accessory shop adds value to the property, which in turn will encourage future upkeep and, when needed, rehabilitation of the home. Ken Anderson.
Yes, I agree with the staff analysis.
Larry.
I agree with the staff analysis and specifically not to have buildings separated by a road. That's hazardous and it's not very conducive.
Franklin.
Yes.
Wayne.
I agree with staff analysis and the township.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
Number 2, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls, and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The analysis is that the ground slopes prevalent to the east and south of the existing house represent a practical difficulty. Larry.
I agree.
Franklin.
Yes, I agree.
Wayne.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Ken Visker.
Agree.
Ken Anderson.
Yes, I agree.
Number 3, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The manner in which public roads divide the commonly owned contiguous property and how that division relates to the existing house location creates a circumstance unique to the property. Franklin.
Yes, I agree.
Wayne.
Yes, I agree.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
Ken Anderson.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Larry.
I agree.
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. It is reasonable for the applicants to locate a shop near their dwelling that can be accessed without crossing a public road, that does not require an additional driveway connection, and that does not require converting large amounts of lawn to driveway in order to extend the existing driveway. Wayne.
Yes, I agree. I don't want you crossing the road.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
Ken Anderson.
I agree.
Larry.
I agree.
Franklin.
I agree.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. The setback requested is similar to that of the existing house, which has not resulted in any known issues. Allowing the shop on the same side of the road as the house will aid public safety. Ken Visker.
I agree.
Ken Anderson.
I agree with staff analysis.
Larry.
I agree.
Franklin.
Yes, I agree.
And Wayne.
I agree with staff analysis.
And finally, number 6, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. The request is I have to apologize. My analysis, my report is 100% wrong. It is not a use variance. It is an area variance. The request is an area variance. No floodplain is present on the property, nor is the request known to be afoul of state law. Ken Anderson.
I agree.
Larry.
I agree with the noted change.
Franklin.
Yes, I agree.
Wayne.
Yes, I agree.
And Ken Visker.
I agree.
Before you make request a motion to accept the findings, Ken, I again should have asked you if we were intending to bundle these before we went through the findings. There's 2 requests here. The staff report and the proposed findings were prepared to allow the board to consider them both together. I'll ask you each if that was your intent when you made your votes on the findings. Responding by yes would mean that that was your intent. Ken Anderson.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Wayne.
Yes.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
All right, my apologies for that.
Okay, then we need a motion for the findings, to accept the findings.
I'll make a motion that we accept the findings as presented.
Okay, I have a motion from Larry. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
I got it from Franklin, so.
Okay,
And we need a roll call on that again?
Ken Anderson,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
aye.
and Viskers.
Aye.
Okay. Then we need a motion to grant a variance, I guess would be the next step. There's some proposed language on page 7 of your report.
There is some proposed language based on the comments from Ed tonight regarding the right-of-way of the township road. You could consider modifying the setback distance from the center line of Bluebird Road. He was originally asking for 36 feet. I had recommended that you limit that to 32 feet based on a 4-rod road. If it's not a 4-rod road, you could consider granting his entire request of 36.
I'll make a motion to grant a variance of 36 feet to allow placement of accessory building 33 feet from the center line of Bluebird Road, and a variance of 20 feet to allow placement of an accessory building 80 feet from County State Highway 14.
Okay. Did everyone hear the motion? Is there a
I'll second.
What?
I seconded Franklin.
Okay, second by Franklin. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
and Viskers.
Yes.
Okay. Any other things to deal with on this?
We're gonna do minutes, huh?
Then we have
Nothing
minutes
else
to
on
do.
the Hummels application.
What's that?
No, I'm just responding to Ken. No other action needed on the Hummels application.
Okay. Then we move to approve the minutes of last meeting.
I so move.
Motion by Franklin. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Wayne. All in favor, say aye.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
and Ken Visker.
Aye.
Okay, then you had, in the packet, there was a tentative schedule. Do we need action on that? Aaron?
Well, I guess I just wanted to make you aware of that. That's in the past, we haven't had the boards act on that. That's been the schedule that's been kept. Predates my being here. It's typically the 4th Thursday of the month.
Just assume the third Thursday unless otherwise noted.
It's the 4th Thursday unless
Or fourth.
otherwise noted. And there are some, once you get
Okay,
into the
yep.
fall of the holiday season, there's some deviation.
Right.
And from time to time, if there's an applicant who's willing to, wants to expedite something, I may reach out to you, Ken, and ask if you are willing to consider expediting something if somebody really needs to move a project. But barring that, this would be our normal schedule.
Okay. And we don't always have to meet. We don't meet every month if there's no agenda.
Correct, yes. If there's
So
no
that-
applications, you wouldn't receive a board packet, and we try, you should expect to receive an email from us, or Franklin, we should call you and tell you there is no hearing. But if you don't
Okay.
receive a packet, there is also, no hearing.
Any other business that anyone has? Being none, I guess we could call ourselves adjourned.
We better have a motion to that
Okay,
effect.
if you want a motion,
I'll make it then.
make motion by Franklin to adjourn. Second by
I'll second it.
Larry.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
and Visker.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
We are adjourned.